Okay, so today we'll be taking a look at the Revelation Triclops. So let's check him out. Okay, so it's been a little longer since I've done an actual full-length review like this. I've been working on doing shorts and stuff like here lately, so that's why I've not gotten a full video up like this. But yeah, the shorts have seemed to do pretty good. They've gotten a pretty good bit of views, so I'll probably do some more of those. Because shorts are pretty easy to do, so I'll probably upload a lot of them more frequently. Everything, see how those do and everything. But today I decided to do another full-length review. So today we're going to look at the Revelation Triclops as he appeared in Masterverse Revelation. This figure actually has two different looks as he did in the show. So I'll go over that a little bit later. But so let's. I do have the packaging, but it's somewhere down in storage, and so that's why I didn't get it out because I don't know exactly where it's at and how far deep is it down in one of the boxes. So, but I will show you a picture of what it looks like on the box and everything there. So without further ado, let's get into his accessories. Okay, so this is really the only weapon that he comes with, or only like actual accessory I would say is his sword. That was just the same kind of sword that came with Fisto. But his was purple, which I haven't viewed that figure yet because I don't have the vintage one yet. So I'm gonna work on getting me a vintage figure, so I'll have it to compare with and everything. That's why some of them I don't review yet because I don't have the vintage figures to compare them to. But so here's the vintage sword, which I just dropped. Here's the vintage sword compared to the new one. As you can see, it's kind of got the same shape and everything, but it's not one for one though. You see, this one's got a silver blade and a gold hilt with a black handle. This one's got the black handle, but it's got like a thing on a guard there on the outside. This blade's all green and everything, so it's kind of the same shape, but different colored sword. But this is a pretty cool sword though, and so you can hold this in either one of his gripping hands. So as you can see, and he gets a pretty good hold on it too. It's not loose or anything. He gets a pretty good tight grip, so that's pretty nice. And you see the gold kind of goes with his armor too. It kind of complements the look of his armor there, which is really cool. So for articulation, this figure has the standard articulation from Masterverse figures. He's got a ball joint there at the head, a hinge there and swivel at the shoulder, a double hinge there at the bicep. I just hit my camera there. He's got a hinge and swivel there at the wrist. But his wrist gauntlets are not removable like He-Man's, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I would display him without them anyway. He's got a ab crunch and swivel there at the waist. He's got a hinge and a swivel there at the thigh. He's got a double hinge at the knee, a hinge there at the boot, or a swivel at the boot, I mean, a hinge at the ankle, and ankle pivot, which is not one to turn right because of his boot there. But you see, he does have good ankle pivot. Okay, so let's go to the sculpt, design, and color of Triclops, starting with his head. So this is one of two looks you can display this figure in. This is his classic look, which is, still pretty cool. He's got his, his Triclops thing there on his head there, which does turn like the vintage one there. As you can see, you got a round there, as you can see. And if I turn it the other way, this one on this figure is hard to turn. Now you got a square. So like I said, I don't know why, but this thing's hard to turn on this head. If you look underneath there, he actually does have eyeballs that are sculpted, but they're not actually painted. So I don't know why they didn't paint them, but that would have been kind of cool. The classics figure actually had a detail where you could see his Triclops thing hooked to his eyeballs, which was pretty cool detail. I'll show you a picture there. But I wish they would have done that on this figure. Unfortunately, they didn't. Well, they could have painted his eyes. That'd been kind of cool. But he's got his hair hanging out the back there, which is looks like kind of blonde, brownish hair, as you can see. He's also got the strap from his eye thing there going down to his chin, which is pretty cool there. It's got silver paint on it, but it's got a gold thing there at his chin. And as you can see, he's got not a whole lot of he's very barbaric looking. He doesn't have a whole lot of way of clothes, but you can see he's got his signature green armor on, which is pretty cool. It's got gold spikes on it. It's mostly green. It's got like a darker green around the trim and a lighter green inside, so that gives it some pretty cool contrast. As you can see, I forgot to mention that's black on top right there too, so it gives that a little bit of contrast. Kind of like the vintage figure, it was black on top too. And see, it's got gold there in the middle with rivets and whatever this thing is. I'm not sure what it is, but it's green around his waist there. It's also got his golden belt with his black loincloth. Got his gold wrist bracers on, which is pretty cool. He's got it's pretty big muscly thighs there, as you can see. He's also got his signature black barbarian boots on, which is pretty cool. Same boots as He-Man, but except He-Man's are brown and darker brown stuff. Klops are all black, which is the vintage figures that way, so that's pretty accurate. So like I said, this is one of two looks you can display this figure in. There's also another look, so I'll show you here. So now you have Triclops and his Colt in the motherboard attire there, and that is really cool. Now the Colt in the motherboard was one of my least favorite aspects of Masterverse Revelation. Yeah, I just didn't really get it. It was kind of weird, but then at the end, it with the big reveal, it made a little more sense. But like I said, it's probably one of my favorite parts of the show. But this actually turned out to be one of my favorite figures because this is actually really cool. And which I'm kind of torn on which look I want to display him with. Cause I like that vintage look, but then again, this looks pretty cool. And I remember too, my daddy said that because I was like, I don't know what way to display him. He said, I'll display him this way. It makes him look a little bit different on the shelf, which I have to say he was right that I usually do display him this way, and this does give him a little contrast on the shelf. It makes him stand out from other Triclops. Which if you wanted to, which I may end up doing, I may end up buying another one of these so I can display one of his vintage looking and one of the Colton motherboard stuff. So which they did make not Triclops, Trapjaw in this form too. Unfortunately, I don't have that figure, but which I might try to get that soon. But they also made motherboard, I believe too. But as you can see, now he has different stuff on his head is different. As you can see, it's got this triangular thing that goes up, and he's got a red thing now which does turn, which as you see it does turn and stuff. So you got a round eye and a triangular one there, and crooked. There we go. And as you can see, he doesn't have his hair hanging out the back now. Which, from here down, this kind of reminds me of 2000X Triclops for some reason. I don't know if you don't have this sticking up, it's what that kind of looks like to me. But as you can see, he's got this big, armor piece on everything. These big long robes and sashes hanging down. He's supposed to be a cult leader, so he looks the part. And see, it's got a lot of colors there. There's black and red. The sashes have are white with some red details on them, kind of technology, because yes, the theme of the Cult in the Motherboard is embracing technology over magic. And so he's got this long sash that hangs down the front there. It's black with red trim, which looks really cool. And you see on the back, he's got a cloth goods cape, which is really cool as well. It's more black and red and white. These colors really go good together. It looks really, really cool. And you can see he's got a red robe underneath here. Switching this out ain't too complicated. I just didn't do it on video trying to save some time. But I might do a short on how to change out the his original look for his golden motherboard stuff. That's a pretty good idea. But then see, he's got different hands too. In his other form, I had gripping hands. These hands are more meant for this form, because you can get him like in a cult speaking pose, I guess. If you have like a podium to stand this figure in front of, it would be cool too. So here he is compared to his vintage counterpart there, which mine has an extra sword there. But as you can see, this look is obviously kind of based off the vintage look there. Except the vintage figure, his armor is brighter green and it has different color eyes, which this one doesn't have any different color eyes. But as you can see, the sword is a different color too, obviously. But based off the look of the sword. So you see the similarities and differences there between the two. And also here he is compared to Andra and Tila. Which I'm comparing them to these two characters because they snuck in the show. They snuck into Snake Mountain under Triclops' control with the Cult and the motherboard, and that's why I compare these two characters with this one. If I had Triclops, it would have been cool. And I think they made a figure of motherboard too. I don't know how expensive that is, but as soon as I watched Pixel Dan's review on it, it's actually pretty cool. So you have motherboard, and then you have this Triclops and Trapjaw. That would be a really cool display. That might be something I'd try to do in the future. So, what do I think of this figure overall? I really like this figure, and like I said, the Cult and the Motherboard was probably my least favorite part of Revelation, but this has turned out to be one of my favorite figures. Though this figure just looks really cool, especially in his Cult and the Motherboard stuff. And I highly recommend it. And if you want both looks, I recommend you could pick up two of these, which I may end up doing. I haven't decided yet, but because I do like his vintage look too, but like I said, displaying him this way and his Cult and Motherboard stuff looks really cool on the shelf. So you like this figure, give me a thumbs up. It helped me a lot. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Till next time.